Is triangle strategy good enough to revitalize the tactical RPG? Let's discuss. Hello and welcome to Mediavania. My name is Marty.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Nick.
And tonight we have a very special guest. It's actually my older son, Adam, who is going to join us as we talk about the new game from Square Enix, Triangle Strategy. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Good to be here. I drop in from time to time, various places.
Adam does a lot of streaming. So basically he streamed his entire play of Triangle Strategy on Twitch.
Oh, amazing.
Yes, it's been doing that. And if this is your first time to the channel, hey, why don't you give us a sub, give us a like, share us out there. And if you have any comments below as we talk about this game, let us know. So as we get started, let's set a little bit of a baseline here. So what is everybody's history with tactical RPGs in general?
I made a board game about Final Fantasy Tactics.
Really?
Yeah. Adventure Tactics was, based on my love for Final Fantasy Tactics in that genre. And I've been playing, Ogre Battle, all those, this guy, like I love, this might be my number one favorite genre of video game.
Wow.
Yeah. And it translates over to, board games, right? Like I think the two go very hand in hand. Whether
Absolutely.
I've always liked this genre from Front Mission games, especially Front Mission 3 to Final Fantasy Tactics to Disgaea. Go right through all of them. They're all like there's something about leveling up your characters, changing classes, unlocking new classes. And this genre is amazing. Final Fantasy Tactics is incredible. Ogre Battle was incredible. I rarely play a bad tactics games. Even recently, I think the most recent one outside of this one that I played was on Steam, and it was called Fell Seal. Did anyone play Fell Seal?
I did. Yeah, I like Wildermyth too.
Yeah. Fell Seal was pretty good. It was very similar to the style of this game where you're unlocking classes and playing through. Story was pretty good. Gameplay was decent. Worth checking out, but yeah, not to this quality. I think this is Triangle Strategy is what we've all been really wanting, even though all the other kind of games like that have been just whetting our appetite a little bit. But this is one that I think we were all waiting for.
Yeah, you can even. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to add out about your history here.
Yeah, I think for me it starts with Fire Emblem probably. I remember growing up playing. I remember you had some sort of game card for the DS with questionably acquired games on it. You remember this? It was like some sort of generic game card you put into the DS.
What's the statute of limitations on
are we beyond statute of limitations? Yes, I do remember there was
whatever the case, I'm sure you purchased all of these games for full price.
It was only for evaluation use, and he delivered them after 24 hours.
Exactly.
I was also an evaluator.
Do you remember what game it was on there?
It was an early Fire Emblem game. It was a GBA Fire Emblem game, but I can't remember which one exactly. But I remember that was the first time I'd been exposed to the genre in general. And I played most of the Fire Emblem games since Awakening, Three Houses recently. I've played Disgaea, a couple Disgaea games. I have played bad TRPGs. Most recently, I streamed a game called Auguras Generations of War on my Twitch channel.
Oh, man, the title sounds familiar to me. I've never played those, though. No good, right?
It's not great. It's not. It was actually really good to play before Triangle Strategy because it was a case study in opposites in many cases about how that one doesn't work and Triangle does. And it was a good way to answer each other. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Would y'all consider XCOM a TRPG?
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and XCOM's great.
Especially
I love
the older ones.
Yeah, XCOM's great. I love the newer ones. XCOM 2. I thought both were outstanding games. Just really addictive. Play one more kind of games where you get done with a mission and you want to play again immediately. That game XCOM is like so famous though for like you being like right next to the enemy, and it's like I have a 99% chance to hit them, but then you just like shoot straight up in the air.
Yeah, do a stormtrooper shot.
How about Marty? Marty, what's your history with them?
So I remember going back and playing Final Fantasy Tactics Ogre. And I regret, oh my gosh, I own both of those, and I made the mistake of going out and looking how much those are worth now. And I'm kicking myself for selling those because I thought, hey, I think I'm going to go buy a used copy of Final Fantasy Tactics. Well, if I want to shell out $50, $60, I can probably do that. But so yeah, that was kind of my history. Plus, games like XCOM, Fire Emblem, and stuff. So Triangle Strategy, for those who don't know, is a brand new game from Square Enix. This is not a rehash. This is not a remake or anything. Brand new game, brand new story. And it's in the style of, what would you call the Octopath Traveler? The 2D, 3D style of animation?
Yeah, like a mix. Yeah. 2.5D, yeah.
Square Enix's official designation for it.
2D, 3D. Is it?
2D, 3D.
Yeah.
Because they're calling it like the 2D, 3D system, I guess.
I've heard of a name also being floated around, and I can't think of like whether it's a pixel, like with the word pixel in it or something, but I would have to look it up. But I think there's an unofficial term for that style of Octopath and Project Triangle Strategy.
Now, before we get into,
I don't know if that's the official designation. I just know that for the Dragon Quest III remake, which I'm really excited about, they called it the 2D, 3D Dragon Quest III remake.
Yeah, for sure.
I like that style. There's some people that don't care
love that
for
style.
it. I love it.
Love it. And Final Fantasy VI, give me any, like, even if it isn't a tactics RPG, just that, bringing old school RPGs back in that style is honestly, I think, what we all want.
Final Fantasy Tactics was in the GeForce leak.
What's that?
Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster was in the GeForce leak, so fingers crossed.
Oh, the leak. I got you. I didn't know about this leak, but yeah.
That was the one that had ActRaiser in it. I'm like, oh, that's fake. And then ActRaiser came out.
Well, yeah. Obviously, we would love to see Final Fantasy Tactics get remaked, but I want to see, just a bunch of stuff from there. Like I said, I would love Final Fantasy VI. I know they just did the Pixel remaster, which is that just recently came out on Steam and Switch, or I don't think it was Switch, but regardless, that is actually just the exact same thing as what the SNES one looked like, with like updated music, but it doesn't have this 3D background kind of style where they update it.
Mm-hmm. Now, as we get into Triangle Strategy, this is a non-spoiler review. We will be talking about how maybe the story works, about some of the characters, but we will not be revealing any of the story. And that's very important, because one thing I loved about this game is the branching storylines. It was kind of interesting. When I heard the name, I was never a big fan of the name Triangle Strategy. It just doesn't say a lot. But after playing it now, I understand the reason why they call it that, because there's 3 different types of, is it called conviction? That you're throughout the game, you're being given decisions, or you're asked a question, you make decisions, and it changes your balance in these convictions. And these changes will affect not only the storyline, but actual characters that you'll meet along the way. And for example, I didn't realize this till after we finished the game. And I believe out of all 4 of us, only Adam and I have finished the game. I believe.
I'm close, but I haven't finished yet.
So I don't know if y'all know this, and this isn't a big spoiler. It's out there to be seen. There are 30 characters in this game, and I didn't come anywhere close to seeing 30 characters. Which is really cool.
I love that about these kind of games, because it makes it where I'm sure Marty and Adam, with you both finishing the game, I mean, did you guys have similar like parties by the end of it, or were they quite different?
We actually did. We had similar ones. And I dove a little deeper. Once I finished it, I looked into everything and the flow charts about how it all works. The game's almost designed to necessitate multiple playthroughs in order to see all the characters. Not almost, like it literally is, like there are some characters that you cannot see unless you do multiple playthroughs.
Right.
But that is just to say, even though we had different endings, I think our parties and rosters still looked pretty similar, or if even the exact same. Did we even have a different?
As I was watching, I don't think I saw a character that you had that I didn't have. So yeah.
Because I think you said something like, or we both thought that was all the characters because those are all we've seen.
Right.
And we learned that there's like, twice as many.
Yep.
And most of those are based off those moral choices. So Marty, that means you taught Adam your strong sense of morality, and he made the same ethical decisions when it's going up, right? Because those are all unlocked. You have a couple story point ones, right? But then also the ones that like the character stories, one that just like wandered into your camp, those are all unlocked based off of points.
Yep.
So that's interesting that you guys had the same roster.
Yeah.
Now there's side stories though. Like as the game goes on, they open up character quests, and like 2 character quests might pop up, and when you go do them, I mean, they're very short, maybe 10-15 minutes, and honestly, the ones that I've seen so far are just story based, but then after that plays out, you get that character. Now, I would imagine if you don't go and do those, you don't get that character, right? But I didn't really see a reason to not, do those. Did you guys see that? Did you guys do all of the character quests as they popped up?
Anytime there was one, I for sure pulled it up. Adam, I'm sure you did the same thing.
Yep, I did every side thing that showed up. This game is very friendly about it. It doesn't really derail you to go look at all the different side, even like the little optional cutscenes or whatever. They're very inobtrusive and easy to just go do.
Now, one negative thing I saw about this game, and I will say this up front, this game is not for everybody. If you're not into a game where there is a lot of reading, there is a lot of non-action going on. There are about 20 chapters in the game. It took me 30 to 32 hours to finish. And each of those chapters really only has one battle. So a majority of the time, and I would say 50% or less is actually spent in combat. Does that seem about right from what y'all have seen?
Totally.
That's about right. Yeah. Because each chapter, as you said, has the one story battle and the one like tavern battle, right? So
Yeah.
And you don't even have to do the tavern battles.
Right. Yeah. And so if you're not into reading and a lot of narrative and stuff, then you're probably not going to be a big fan of this. However, I will say at the end, I was really engrossed in the story. This was a game that I kept wanting to play because I wanted to see what happens next. And Adam and I did have separate endings.
How many endings are there?
4? Is that right?
There are 3 that you can do in your first playthrough, and then there's a 4th ending that you can only do in your second, or even it encourages you to do it in 4 playthroughs, but it's possible to do it in your second.
Interesting.
But, yeah.
Is that the golden path?
The golden route or something like that?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So Adam and I took totally different paths. Now I finished the game before he did because I wanted to see what his story was. And it's really interesting later in the game. And this is what I thought was so cool. It got to a point to the game. I think Adam, this happened to you too. It said, by the way, the decision you're about to make is very major. You need to save now.
Yeah.
Because it was like, this is where it goes poof, and it never comes back together again. Because I believe.
Is that chapter 7?
No. It's like chapter 18 or 19.
Okay, so I haven't even seen that one yet.
Towards the end of the game.
From what I understand, the paths diverge, but then come back together throughout the game. So you may take a chapter 7. I know what you're talking about. There's a major thing that happens, but I think it kind of reemerges back upon itself again. But there is a point where it totally splits and never comes back. For those different endings.
Consequences that matter, which is I was impressed by.
Yeah, no spoiler, but yes.
There are games where they say that your choices matter, but what they really mean is that your choices matter in the way that the story is being told. But what I'm looking for in a game is when choices matter in the way you play the game, like it affects the gameplay. This game does that all throughout, and then at that very ending, like it kind of turns it upside down. Like your choice will affect the way you approach the gameplay for the rest of the game. It's very impressive.
Yeah, even early on, you see it in action too. I think they kind of build you up to it, right? The first time you choose which other kingdom you want to visit, right? And that changes what you learn and who joins your party right away.
What did you feel about just the battle mechanics in general? We've kind of gone over the narrative. What about the actual combat?
I loved it. I mean, just give me more of that. The combat itself felt really good. I mean, I guess we'll talk about the characters too. You talked about how there's so many characters. I love that, but also there were too many characters, and sometimes you get them so late that you're never going to use them because you're so used to your setup. But I have that problem with any kind of JRPG that has too many characters, right? Unless you force me to rotate my characters, and I'm just going to keep my core group. Like, there are some really cool ones, and there's some pretty OP ones. Like I think we talked about Anna already. Like, and then finally Benedict gets the "You Go Now" ability, and he's just completely broken. And also his bulwark ability, right? That raises the character's defense. You put that on Eridor, and Eridor's provoke, and he's taking 1 damage from everything. And Like you just run him up and provoke after he gets bulwark. So there's some pretty OP combos within the game, but I love finding those, right?
Yeah. And all of the characters are very specialized, which I like. This is one problem that Augurast had, is that all of the characters use the same pool of skills, and it was really lame because every character just used the highest damage skill every turn, and that was just the best way to play it, and it was boring. In this game, you have a character like Benedict. He's useless in doing damage, but he's extremely useful in doing other things. And all these characters are like that. They have their niches that they're really, really good at, and it's about finding which characters work together in that niche to pull off these, like you said, combos that, quite frankly, I don't see very often in a TRPG, the complexity of how a roster and a party can play out.
There were some really interesting, unique combat mechanics I loved in this game too, with positioning. One of the ones is that if you have, if you're flanking an enemy and one of you attacks, the other gets a free attack on the other side. And, when you combine that with somebody like an Anna, and this isn't spoiling anything, you get Anna early on. Anna gets to strike twice. So if you can position her where she strikes and somebody's on the other side, that's 4 attacks for basically the cost of 2.
It goes the other way, though, too. Like the enemies get that same ability, which makes me super hesitant to rush into battle, right? Like I found in this game so far, I'm playing much more conservative, staying back, letting them come to me versus like running a guy out there and letting them just surround him and hit him like nonstop. So I have found myself mostly like playing very safely around the edges and kind of taking my time and letting them spread out to kind of draw them out.
There are some missions that force you to move, though. Like they either have a time limit or there's a specific objective, and if you don't get to it, reinforcements to keep coming.
Yep.
So they did try to push people away from turtling, but otherwise, you're right. It's always better to let them come to you.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think they did a really good job of, in a good tactics game, elevation makes a huge difference. Fire Emblem really doesn't have elevation, right? They've got cover with forest and stuff, but elevation was never a concept.
Yeah, they didn't do elevation because you're right, with forests and different terrain types. I even think there were like mountains that you could like go into that some characters would take advantage of, but they were never seemed to be like higher or lower.
Right.
Fire Emblem always had almost environmental mechanics. I feel like they were there, but I realized with Triangle Strategy that this game has what I've been wanting out of environmental mechanics the whole time. And
can you give examples of that?
Of the environmental mechanics?
Yeah.
Oh, well, like you're talking about the elevation, positioning. I'm including positioning in this. Just having to think about where characters are in relation to each other, like whether or not their back's turned here and whether or not they're, on this level or whether or not they're, because there are some characters where that matters even more. I think it was Huette, right? The higher she is, the farther range she has.
Yeah.
So all of this matters on a multi-layered level, and I think that's very cool.
That's a throwback to Final Fantasy Tactics too. The range characters were better from higher elevation. And the interesting thing about range too is flanking still works for range too. If you position her on the other side and she shoots, someone on the other side will do a melee attack.
And like Matt said earlier, same against you too. So you have to be careful.
You got to be careful.
So when you said environmental, I honestly thought you was going to bring up the fact that you could take advantage of environments such as ice and water.
This too.
Yeah. So there's some characters that can make it rain. You have some characters that can do electrical attacks. If somebody's standing in water, it does an AOE basically.
That's cool.
Yeah. So it has all these. There's wind mechanics.
I love that Narv. Yeah, that is great.
Yep. I have him, and his ability is very, very cool. I'll say on a whole, the abilities just look awesome. Like the graphics on the animations, even though they keep the characters right, like 8-bit, but just they sink more into just how cool their abilities look and like the attacks. It's really impressive, and his is cool too with the wind, and turning people around.
Yeah, there's so many times you get like free backstabs because he faces people the other way. It's great.
Yeah. No spoilers, but there is one of the climax battles in the ending I had where this lightning on water mechanic becomes catastrophic. And it matters a lot all of a sudden.
Yeah, there was the worst thing I hated going up against. If I saw a battle mage, just like, and he's got shock, I'll go, oh my gosh, shock is just brutal. The amount of damage that thing deals is just bad. So, and if I see a battle mage that could pull that off, I'm going after that battle mage just as quickly as I can.
Yeah, and there's some cool stuff too, like fire, for instance, like will burn up barricades or whatnot, you know, and like you can smack them with your sword or hit them from, you know, but you'll take damage coming back. But you could hit them with arrows, but they don't do a lot of damage. But the fire just burns them right up, like almost instantly. Especially with like the item bombs that you have that I seem to use quite a bit to take care of some barricades in the way, having to get through a level or whatnot. Did you guys talk at all about just there's the battles and there's the story, but then there's also the parts where you're just wandering,
the exploration phase.
Have we talked about the exploration phase?
I've not.
All right, because I think that part is actually really cool. I feel like they could have done more with it. I would have liked to seen, and I don't necessarily need to be walking around hitting things with a sword. That's not this game. And I don't really know what I'm asking for by saying I like more, but realistically, this was just more story. But like a static, you get to walk around and talk to each person and then make a couple choices, learn a few things, and then move on. I would have loved to seen some shops, some houses to interact with.
There are a couple shops.
Oh, are those? I haven't gotten to those yet. Like as far as going in and seeing the shops, but unless they're like right early and I just plowed past them.
There's merchants in some places that you can go buy stuff, and then you have your encampments, obviously, where you can purchase and upgrade, which I enjoyed too. I enjoyed spending time in there and going and buying items and upgrading my armor, and then I like that some of the tech trees some of the characters had, to where you could take this ability or this ability, but not both. You had to decide which one you wanted. So I appreciated just the work of leveling up my characters also.
Yeah. Did you guys find that the now you get a lot of different characters and all those characters have classes? I'm the one that's the least far in this game, so I'll be kind of just asking some questions here. Is do you upgrade classes in this? Like, does your class go from one thing to another, or is it just new characters have new classes?
Yes, but they just continue the specialization. It's not the job system like Final Fantasy Tactics. Adam touched on this earlier, that each character is very specialized and they continue their role, and their advanced classes only kind of help them do that role better, which I missed. Like I loved the job system in Final Fantasy Tactics, and Fire Emblem has similar systems too, but it was interesting. It made each character feel very unique. Like, I know Eridor is always going to be a tank, right? That's not in question. I know Huet is always going to be a ranged damage dealer. So it helps those characters, I think, their personalities and their stories feel a little more connected, because they're not, Huet isn't randomly an alchemist or a ninja or whatever next chapter.
One thing I really enjoyed too about driving the story, and maybe Adam, you can give your thoughts on this, are the scales of conviction that you have to deal with throughout the game.
Yes, and I will say, having finished the game, these segments get bigger and more important as you go on. Each one gets more and more, not only more and more significant just in the scope of the story, but more and more difficult to get to go your way as you go along. So I guess we should describe the scales of conviction, what that is.
It's a big mechanic.
These tri-lobed scales that your main character protagonist will bring out conveniently when he has to make a big decision, so he doesn't have to make it himself and he can just ask everyone else to do it. And
I don't take any responsibility for what happens here. This is what
the scales have spoken. There it is. We made a lot of jokes about that on my stream. But all the party members, not all the party members, but all the like main character party members that you have at the beginning will vote, and you don't cast a vote. So your job as the player / protagonist is to convince everyone else to vote the way you want to vote. It's an open thing. It's not like, underhanded politics or anything. Like, you're just discussing it with your party members. And each of these decisions is affiliated with one of those convictions. So some characters will naturally lean towards one or the other. Some characters will want to do one thing. Some characters will want to do the other. And they might be more apt to agree with you on one decision and less apt on another. So it's a very, very nuanced thing. And another thing is, you can explore, you can go outside and talk to people around the village that you're in or wherever, and you can actually get information that will help you convince people in the skills and conviction segment to go your way on certain things. It's a very clever system. The game also does a great job of not even telling you that that's something you can do. It's just like, hey, you can go explore if you want. And then I went out and explored and then came back inside and found out that something I'd found out there gives me another dialogue option with the character in here. It's very, very cleverly done.
Because normally they'll have the two, but you can see the skill unlock. That means you discovered something new. And as you go through the exploration, like you see, like you'll talk to people and you're like, oh, Sarah Noah learned about this. And then you're like, whatever. But then it comes back and is important when you're trying to convince one of the party members of a decision.
That would pop up often. And it's like, you just learned this. And I was like, I totally just forgot what they said. I didn't learn anything. I was like, I was not paying attention strong enough. And I should probably go back and figure out what I just learned.
How successful were you? Wow, let's try this again. How successful were y'all at getting the party to vote the way you wanted them to?
Incredibly unsuccessul.
Really?
What was
I've been
the deal?
successful.
How was the deal?
I was successful. I've literally only had like one of those so far, though.
Oh,
yeah. It was the last few for me. That
okay. So
I assume they get tougher, right? Yeah.
The beginning one's pretty straightforward, and I feel like you can kind of just do. And this is honestly like I think the first one is like not even in spoiler territory because it's so early on, and it was even in the demo. Like it was part of the which way do you want to go? But I guess even from that first one, however, there's a character you said you get, right? Like depending on which way you go, there's a unique character depending on that very first choice and first part of this that you get.
Yep. And that opposite character doesn't show up until way later.
Oh wow.
So
okay.
It
but you can still get them.
Yes, I think.
Now I can't remember which character.
I think for the first choice,
character.
For the fourth choice, I don't think you actually can get them later.
It might be possible. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I was looking at all the criteria and stuff, and it gets complicated. It gets really complicated.
So, are there anything? So, what are some of the top pros and top cons, if you have any, of the game?
For me, I was going to say I'll start with the con because I really like this game. Like this is like a 7 or 8 out of 10 for me, but I'm probably going to be a little more negative of it because this wasn't Final Fantasy Tactics, and I just want more of that. Like there's a couple lessons that Final Fantasy Tactics did that I think Triangle Strategy should have applied. Number one, start off with a fight. Like Triangle Strategy does, and we talked about it. Triangle Strategy does not pick up until about 3 hours in.
Yep.
Right. That's a heavy investment for the modern gamer before you decide that you really want to like a game, and that could really turn off a lot of people. And I know people played the demo; they're like, "This is boring," right?
Yep.
Because there's a lot of story and the narrative is pretty heavy-handed. Like I remember like having a scene talking to the characters, and then the like the map narration started, and it told me literally the exact same thing that just happened, and I'm like, you didn't need that. So there are some things that could have been excised or maybe edited a little bit better, but that's my biggest con is the barrier of entry. Like this is actually a really great game, but it doesn't tell you that right away.
I mentioned
the cons we got out there.
I mentioned this at some point. And I said the same thing about Octopath Traveler, is that these games are not made for a broad audience. They're made for people who are familiar and enjoy this particular genre. So just by that very nature of the game, it's going to be a little obtuse to someone who's never played a TRPG before or has no experience with the genre. Right. It might be a little difficult for them to get into. And that, well, for me, that's not a con because I love these games. But in general, it's difficult for someone who doesn't have any experience with anything like this to pick it up and play it. A lot of my pros and cons for this game, I feel like, are very personal. Like what I have as a pro, another person might see as a con. Like, for example, when it comes to video games, I want to be intellectually challenged. I want to have to really think about a game. Some people don't want to do that. Some people just want to relax and not think. And this game demands your cognitive attention at all points, whether it's in the battle or in the scales of conviction segments or in the story. Like you have to be paying attention. You have to be thinking about it. I streamed it with Travis and Brett a couple times. And I remember there was a couple battles where I was just talking to them and I was like half paying attention to the battle. And then suddenly I started paying attention. I was like, I'm going to lose. Like this has gone away from me very quickly. And I like, you really have to think. So that's something some people might consider a con. I think it's a pro for me, but that is something to consider as well. It's a very thinky game, very heady.
Yeah, for me, it's and again, I'm the least far. I'm only in chapter 6. I have about 7-8 hours into it, so I'm pretty early on. I'm excited to get to the second half of the game and see it through, because I'm past the part that Nick said, which was pretty slow. And I guess again that con, I have the same con that Nick did, but maybe in a little different light. It's just it's very wordy. It's very almost visual novel-esque style, like how the story's played out. Listen, all RPGs have a lot of text. All RPGs have a lot of story. I come in expecting a lot of story. This is more, right? Like it's longer and there's more of that. And I think that's where there's a little bit of a disconnect as far as what we thought we were getting, a super combat heavy tactical RPG, which those parts are in it, but you do have to work your way through. I mean, I guess you could skip through it. If you just wanted to fight everything, you could probably skip through everything. But as Marty has pointed out before, like the story is pretty interesting, especially if you stick with it. But I think that's also, it is a con. It's just, to me, a little bit, I would have liked to seen some more battles. On the positive side, the battles are so great. The combat's amazing. The classes are amazing so far. The graphics are great. The music, I don't even know if we talked about the music, but the music's phenomenal. And it was phenomenal in Octopath. Like the scores in these are just so great. It's so awesome to hear modern RPG scores like this, right? Like with the ideas that we're going to have more of them. So yeah, the score, everything that has to do with playing the game is my definite pro. And I would probably come in and around the same, Nick, 7 or 8, but then it might change once I, wrap it up. I'll probably likely only go up once it gets more interesting.
So for me, y'all hit same cons I did. It's like if I say, "Ooh, y'all need to go try a tactical RPG. Which one should you try?" And it's like, if somebody said that, I go, I don't know if Triangle Strategy is the right one, because you're right. You're going to be 3 hours, and it's like, my gosh, when do I get to play the game?
Right.
And that is a big investment just to finally get to see how cool the battle system works. So I got through it. It was fine. It is kind of a barrier for newer players. It's funny that you mentioned music. I remember about 5 or 6 hours into it, Matt, that I thought my biggest con was I don't think the music's very memorable. After finishing the game, I noticed the more I played the game, I went, oh yeah, as I was playing it, I like this particular song right here. After I was done, I actually found the original soundtrack on YouTube. It's 4 hours of music. That's how much is in this thing. And I started listening to it and go, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh, I like that one. Oh, I remember that scene. And then it hit me. Holy cow, no, the music was amazing, because even though I wasn't paying attention to it, I was triggering. Oh, yeah, that scene was sad. Oh, that was a really exciting combat. And I was remembering all these things. It's like, man, the music really did stick with me. And now I just listen to that soundtrack all the time. So it went from a con for me to actually, it actually did stick with me. One of the things
I did the same thing with the Octopath, by the way. As I was playing the game, I never noticed the music. And then I remember once I had like some playlist shuffled on YouTube, and then music started. I was doing something else, and I just thought, oh, this playlist is sick. What is this? And it was all Octopath travel music. I never realized how good this soundtrack was.
Octopath soundtrack is great. It's too bad.
It's
I feel like that story, those stories were pretty weak. And they didn't hold my attention too well.
Yes, that game is also twice as long as Triangle Strategy.
Yeah.
So,
what do y'all think about the length of Triangle Strategy? I think 30 hours is perfect for me.
I agree. I think that's a solid. I mean, I'm not afraid of big commitments in games with the games that Travis, Brett, and I play on stream. We get intense. So I think 30 is great for a TRPG/JRPG like this. It encourages playthroughs, multiple playthroughs. It's shorter than Fire Emblem Three Houses was. Fire Emblem Three Houses, I clock in at 40 hours every playthrough, and that game asks you to play the same 20 hours just to get an extra 20 hours. So I feel like this is a much better time commitment than most games in its genre, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I just came off of playing 120 hours of Elden Ring. So, I mean, listen, if a game grabs you, the time can just melt away, right? Like if you are forced, to kind of come back to a game and you're constantly checking the clock, it's different. I mean, I've put 7 to 8 hours into Triangle Strategy here. I look forward to finishing it out, and I don't, 30 seems great, but it's just all kind of relative. It's like if a game grabs you, then the time played, doesn't really matter too much, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I think it's a tight, 20, 30 hours because they took away the grinding. This is your level, and this is your random, tavern learning experience if you want it. Because Final Fantasy Tactics or a game like Disgaea, which is just all about the grinding, like you'll spend 30 hours just grinding up a lot, like some levels and unlocking other classes or whatever. You need to do in those games. So it was a really interesting business. It was a much more tailored experience at 30 hours.
One thing I really like about the combat too was, well, number one, you Adam, you talked about how you really got to pay attention. For those who are interested in playing, there are 4 levels of difficulty, I believe. There's very easy, normal, and I can't remember what the other one's called, hard, difficult, or whatever. So you can change that if you find it a little bit too tough. One thing I love is that if you lose in a battle, you don't lose anything. Any potions that you spent, you get them back. Any things that you threw, whatever the items that were used, you get them back. Any XP you earned, you keep. Any gold you earned, you keep. So they don't penalize you for losing at all.
And that was
sorry.
Oh no, go ahead, Adam. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say I love that system because it almost acts as a natural grind, like in just the scope of playing the game. Like just by virtue of playing the battles and redoing them, you get XP. And that I feel like that's such a great, like you said, compact system.
Me and you were going to say the same thing, so it's just better you said it.
I actually have a different take on this.
Oh,
okay. I mean, and maybe this is because I also spent 120 hours in Elden Ring where I just died over and over, and like I learned from it. I actually felt that this game was too easy because I'm playing on normal and I have not lost a battle yet. And I'm like chapter 15 in, but I'm kind of like a min-maxer, and I think about my turns pretty seriously going into this game. And I also, I've been playing since, Final Fantasy Tactics, Pool of Radiance, those old school D&D games. Like I've been thinking about combat tactics forever. So I should have played this game on hard.
So I'll knock it too just a bit, but this isn't like, this is, I like the system because of the constant leveling. I have died. I'm not as good as Nick. I died on the last mission that I did. And this is where like missions aren't necessarily super short, like as far as the combat, sometimes they do take a while. So losing can kind of sometimes take me out of wanting to play again. Getting your skills and stuff to carry over to the next battle was super helpful because I'm like, okay, so now I can go in, I'm a little stronger, I got a couple more abilities, and I know how to do this, I could do it. But there are times where I might be in a mission for, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes or whatever. If I die and I don't make it, man, I'm have to just turn the thing off and be like, and then get back to it and say, oh yeah, I got to beat that one mission. So, but that's not necessarily Project Triangle Strategy. That's just me with tactics games as a whole. It's like you get into these things and you play them for a long time. If you lose, you start all the way over. My want to like immediately get back in there, it varies.
Let's talk about the possible impact of this game. So I found this from March 18th. Square Enix announced that just after 2 weeks after release of this game, over 800,000 copies have been sold worldwide. And that was as of March 18th. So there's a very good chance by now that probably over 1 million copies have been sold, which I think for a very specific game, a niche game like this, I think 1 million copies is pretty good. And I hope Square Enix pays attention to those sales and says, oh, well, maybe we got something here that people want more of this.
Yeah. And I think we're already kind of seeing it. Because I didn't think that Octopath Traveler was going to do this, because Octopath Traveler came out and I really liked it. I thought it was great. I mean, it's not perfect, but there's only one game that's perfect, Tetris. And a lot of people had lukewarm opinions about Octopath Traveler, especially in the broader like video game landscape from people who don't like JRPGs or whatever. So I was worried that they weren't going to do any more games like this. I was ecstatic when they announced Triangle Strategy, even more so with the Dragon Quest III remake in the HD 2D H whatever it is style. And then Live Alive coming out this summer in the same way.
Oh, right.
And
I forgot about that one.
Yeah, we saw the trip for that one, yeah.
And they've already confirmed, Square Enix has, that we're getting even more of these 2D, 3D remakes in this style game. So I hope this just encourages them to keep it up, because I'd love to see some of these older, more obscure games, ones we haven't gotten in the West, get the same treatment.
I mean, after the sales numbers here, you got to think somebody's sitting there going, we've got Final Fantasy Tactics sitting in the can. We just update the graphics. I mean, it would kill. It would be a huge seller for them, right?
Yeah. I mean, that'd be
shamelessly
like
buy
my
it
fourth
day
time
one.
buying the game. Like I bought it for
HD
everything.
HD 2D is, I think, what they're calling it.
HD 2D. Okay.
HD 2D is their.
But I think they're working on it. Like I trust that NVIDIA leak now. So
Yeah, I mean, if they don't start making more games that look like this, I mean, I think it's an awesome idea. And then, yeah, and then I guess from here you go to the next era, and you know, let's see what, you know, I don't even know. As we get like, I love seeing these remakes, and I love seeing stuff like this. I don't know, this HD 2D style is awesome, and just bring on more. I can't wait to see what they have. I'll be getting them.
I'd like to see another Triangle Strategy game. Like I don't know how the state of the world is at the end of this one, so maybe it all explodes. Maybe it all burns down. I don't know. I'm not there yet.
Well,
But
I can't say spoiler. I will say that. Well, the endings are different drastically.
Well, I mean, it
honestly
does seem
don't-
the stakes are definitely getting high where I'm at.
Yeah,
And that makes it hard to make a sequel, though.
No,
that's what I was going to say. So
Time
on
skip.
my ending, I thought, oh, you just pick up the story from here. I watched Adam's ending. I went, nope, can't do that.
Totally different.
No, you pick one ending that's canon, the canon ending, right? And then you make the sequel.
Sure.
Which is
yeah.
supposedly the fourth ending that you need for
The,
playthroughs
right, the
to
golden
get.
route or whatever.
But,
yeah.
Right.
I liked this game. I think this is a really solid game, but I'm actually more excited, like if they develop a sequel building upon the ideas that they used in this one. That could
All
be
right.
like a 10-10.
It could even be like a situation where it's not a literal sequel, but even just like a successor. I mean, like
systems,
Final
yeah.
Fantasy does this all the time. So yeah,
Yep.
That's true. And you keep the same thing. You still have the scales of conviction sort of concept and the three conviction traits, and you can have totally brand new characters using the same thing. I mean, there was Octopath Traveler too, right?
Yeah.
Did it
Well, no. Bravely Default had a couple.
Bravely Default. I'm sorry, Bravely Default has.
But that also was kind of just standard 3D. That didn't do the HD 2D thing.
Yeah.
I see the mistake though that their titles, their box art is both the black with the white font on it. Very creative.
Going back to the title, though, there's 3 layers to the Triangle Strategy name, right? It's not just the scales of conviction; it's also the 3 city states, right? And also the rock, paper, scissors combat. So I didn't like the name at first, but I've come to appreciate it. It was like an onion, right? There are layers to it.
Sure.
So tactical RPG. You think there might be a resurgence in these?
No.
Is it no? Okay.
No,
And
I
I'm
mean,
fine with that.
I think realistically, I think tactical RPGs are as popular now as they ever were and ever will kind of be, right? They have their audience. Their audience will continue to buy them. But even with as popular and as much as we love Final Fantasy Tactics, like, I don't know. I mean, it never touched what 7 did. You know what I mean? Like, or it never touched what Grand Theft Auto did. You know, when we look at the grand scheme of like what's selling in the US and Japan, even, I mean, it probably has more success in Japan than it does the US. I would assume that. I think so anyway. I mean, I'm not entirely sure.
It's still relatively niche compared to the overall video game market. So yeah, I think you're right, Matt.
Yeah. So looking at the stats over here from the tweet, of the 800,000 copies that was sold worldwide, 200,000 alone was in Japan.
Yeah.
So it did really well there. So I was going to say, but any final thoughts on the game?
I'm excited to finish it. I can now play it. I'm free of the shackles of Elden Ring. I can play it now, guys.
You say that now, but you're going to go back to Elden Ring.
I know.
It's
so good.
it's worth finishing. It really is.
For sure.
It's one of those things. When I was done, I think Adam, you did the same thing. I started New Game Plus or whatever it's called.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. This is one of the few games where I've actually felt encouraged to do a New Game Plus. Usually I see the credits and I'm like, all right, it goes on the shelf. We did it. Congratulations.
And this isn't a spoiler, but a New Game Plus, basically they tell you exactly what your conviction stats are and what you need to
cool.
unlock characters.
I like
So
when they
you
do
can-
stuff like that.
Yeah, so you can deliberately chase certain characters and stuff. It encourages you to, pull up the flowchart and game the system to get what you want to get.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Well, I'll tell you what, Marty, before we wrap this up, you guys both beat Triangle Strategy, and I know Nick and I are still working on it. However, what's next, or what are you playing now? Like, what is current? Let's go around the table real quick. What other games are you playing, or are you waiting for within maybe, the next month or two?
So
Well, I
for
can answer
me,
that
I
question.
haven't started anything yet. I had totally planned to make sure I was done with Triangle Strategy by April 8th so I could start playing Advance Wars, but Nintendo delayed it because of the stuff that's going on in the world. So I'm looking for something to play right now, but I had totally left my game time open for Advance Wars, so I had to fill it with something else until
Well,
that
you
comes
said
around.
you said you pre-ordered Chrono Cross.
That's did until I did till I watched a review today, and they did not like it at all. No,
Heard, like, there's some
they
technical
said
stuff.
they said they did nothing to it. They said
Yeah.
they might slapped one coat of paint on it. They said there's frame rate issues
Oh,
that they kept it 4:3, that they didn't stretch it out and clean it up or anything like
it's
that.
going to be a
So-
nostalgia thing. It's like, I guess if you got it for it, you'll have it. But if not, it doesn't sound like they're doing anything to bring in new players with it.
Yeah. So that's me. Y'all go around the horn. I
Sure.
don't have anything.
I know for me, I right now on stream I'm playing Famicom Detective Club. That's just like a little fun game to do on stream. I'm gonna try and do some games I have on the backlog that I need to get around to finishing. Metroid Dread is probably the first one.
Yeah.
Metroid Dread.
Great game.
I obviously Total War Warhammer 3 is still there. Always going to keep going back to that the more they add to it. But the big game that's coming out this month that I'm really, really interested in picking up is 13 Sentinels. That's probably the one I'm looking forward to the most.
Awesome.
Is that a remake?
No,
Okay.
it's new. But it's been out in Japan for like a year.
You might appreciate it, Marty. It's got a lot of similarities, I think, to Triangle Strategy, but the combat is a little more abstracted.
I'm in. I'm all about JRPGs right now. I really am. I have gotten so far removed from the twitchy type games, FPSs and stuff like that. I know I should play Elden Ring. I really should. Someday I will, but I've got to get to that.
Yeah.
Where I want to deal with the Souls game right now. So Matt and Nick, what about y'all got coming on?
Well, for me, I have some more Triangle Strategy. I absolutely am not giving up on that, so I'll be working my way through that now that I've finished Elden Ring. Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga is this week.
Skywalker Saga. Yeah.
I think it's out, but it is
today.
out today. As of this recording, it came out today. So my son is the biggest Star Wars fan along with myself, and the two of us, it's something that we've always done, and playing the Lego games is something we've always done. So this has gotten some great reviews. We were planning on getting it anyway, so hopefully this will give us a 2-player game that we can work our way through episode 1 and just play all the content for it. These games are super great. So yeah, Lego Star Wars. I still want to get to Tunic, which is on Xbox Game Pass. Tunic is a isometric view Zelda style game where you play a little fox. From Fiji. Finji is the company that made it, and it's great. I've played it at conventions for years now, as before its release, and I just know it's going to be great, but I haven't actually got over to download it. So Tunic, Lego Star Wars, and I would like to try Wonderlands, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, the Borderlands game, and maybe give that a shot. So that's kind of like what's on my current right now radar. I am going to play Chrono Cross again though, still, because I absolutely adore that game. How about you, Nick?
Well, I'm definitely planning to wrap up Triangle Strategy this week because I'd actually dropped it for a little bit because of Elden Ring. But knowing the show is coming up and getting back into it, like I get a couple more chapters, like I'm fully invested again. So I hope to finish it this week. But I'm in like my 4th Elden Ring playthrough. Like I can't stop playing the game. It's so good.
It's so good.
It might end up being like my number 1 game of all time.
Whoa!
Very good.
It really might. Like it's already in like the top 5 conversation, but it keeps climbing because I can't stop playing it.
I don't play every game for 120 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And it's every once in a while. Is there a game that you can't stop thinking about, that you want to get in there and explore and play?
Yeah.
And I think it's just the combat is so fun and rewarding, and you just want to keep doing it. Like I don't want it to end. I didn't want to finish it because I knew we weren't going to get another game like that for a very long time, right? Like, and I love it. I think it's great too. I'll probably play more Elden Ring. That's also on my on my docket. But there are new games coming out, so
but like.
those.
Yeah, Lego Star Wars Skyward Saga. That's on our list too because our kids are also huge Star Wars fans. So I probably won't get to play it though because the twins will be playing. I'll just have to help them out with like any hard sections. But yeah, that's where
Adam, do you have interest in Elden Ring?
I have a sale interest in Elden Ring. That makes sense. Interested when it goes on sale.
When it goes on sale, you're going to try it.
Yeah,
it might be a while though.
I knew this quarter was going to be stacked, and for me, a game like Triangle Strategy, and then Total War Warhammer 3 came out. We got Rune Factory 5. Like I had all these games that I was really keen on playing, and to me, Elden Ring just kind of fell down the ladder. I've always been kind of lukewarm Souls player. I love them. I love those games, but I just don't put as much time to them as anyone else. Travis is the big Souls guy. He loves Dark Souls. That's his favorite game of all time. Brett is the only one of us that has actually played Elden Ring though. So, and I don't know where he is. I don't know if he's finished it or I don't know what his deal is, but because he's been playing Kirby. He was playing, he actually dropped Elden Ring to play Kirby, which is funny.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, y'all, thanks so much. So if you're not following the channel, please do so. Just give a like, a subscribe. If you have any comments, tell me, are you going to play Triangle Strategy? If you have, let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you want to ask some questions about the game, please do that also. And let us know what's one of your favorite tactical RPGs. Just comment down below. So thanks again for everybody joining in. Thanks for everybody coming in tonight. My name is Marty.
I'm Matt.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Adam. Maybe we have you again sometime. I know that you're you stream so much to talk about all the types of games you like, and you really have a good intuition when it comes to games or everything. So
you're welcome anytime, Adam.
What I like to say is how I build myself is I have an academic interest in video games. I'm an academic like for my career, but I also apply that mindset to video games. I love studying video games. I love
where can people find you stream?
That's right.
Great question. Twitch.tv/Sharkadile, SHRQODILE.
Sure, Marty can put that up on the screen.
Yeah.
Or we'll put it in the comments. We'll put so people can link to it.
So look in the description down below, and I'll have a link to Adam's Twitch channel, who's streams several times a week.
And awesome. If you love weird and obscure games, that's what I'm all about. The more obtuse, the better. That's what I always say.
All right. Thanks, everybody.